How you doing, guys? Today I am doing an unboxing. It's something that I haven't done before, but the reason why I'm doing the unboxing is this. I am adding a part or an aspect to the 857 that I said I wasn't going to do. I wanted to have it to be a tractor more so than like a go-kart or some kind of hot rod kind of vehicle, if you want to call it that. But after riding the tractor for a while, and what I'm actually using it for, shows, kind of goofing off, a little bit of tug work around the yard, just pulling my trailers or pulling my little garden trailer that I have. The push-pull throttle is just a pain in the neck. You know, especially when I'm at a show and I want to slow down and speed up, or I just want to kind of cruise at a certain speed. You constantly have to push, pull, and twist it to lock it, and it's just become a real, just kind of a pain in the butt, and kind of takes away the fun aspect of that tractor, because that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a fun tractor. It's not supposed to be a worker or a pulling tractor or whatever. It's just supposed to be a fun tractor, something to just ride around on, something for my daughter to ride around on, things of that nature. So I ordered something, and I'm going to open it up right now in front of you. Hopefully it's a nice part. If it is a nice part, I will tell you where I got it from. I'm assuming that this is going to be a perfect part, but sorry about the blackness, security reasons, you know. Who knows what kind of crackpot watches this stuff. But anyways, let's give it a slice and see what happens. All right, so the first thing we got is we have a catalog, and obviously I've just kind of visually told you where I got this from, and I also sliced through it. I bought, oh, look at this, nice. Look at this thing, hey. I guess, you know, it's funny how some people, they wrap things just with like one piece of paper, and you complain that, hey, you should have put more wrapping. And then you have good companies, excellent sellers, that wrap it up really good. And you say to yourself, why did you put all this wrapping around? But anyways, so let's continue. What do we got here? Oh, yeah. All right, look at that. Ooh, that's nice. What I did was I bought a foot throttle, obviously, from Midwest Super Cub. I was told that these things are pretty cool. My brother actually got a pulling tractor with a foot throttle on it that's very similar to this. A little bit different design. Actually, this one is nicer than the one my brother has. It even says Midwest Super Cub on it. It's spring loaded. Look at the nice spring in there. Look at the base is real solid. It has a bronze, or a brass, I should say brass, sorry, bushing. You know, nice actuation. That is phenomenal. I'm really liking that. Came with a throttle cable and some mounting hardware. So I'll be looking through that. Let's see what else. Is there anything else in there? Oh, yes, the invoice, because we had to pay for it. And look at that, and that cool ass little decal too, Midwest Super Cub. First impressions is this thing's killer. This is a great piece, and shipped to my door was $50. I mean, this is a nice piece. Shipped to the door for $50. Cable looks, I mean, this thing looks incredible. Gas pedal, it even has a gas pedal video on, I guess, on how to install it. Right, they even have Midwest Super Cub as the YouTube channel, so I'll be checking that out. But look how thick. I mean, this is 1/4 inch. You know, nice polished edges. Nice, you know, got the little foot relief on that. So, oh wow. Yeah, this thing's pretty darn cool. So initial, yeah, I mean, that thing just was super, super smooth. What a great piece. All right, I can't wait to put this thing on. But that's the trick. The trick is to get this onto the tractor so it looks good and it doesn't look like a big albatross on the side of the tractor. So that's the second part of this video, is figuring out how we're going to, or how am I going to attach this to the tractor in such a way that it looks good. Typically puller tractors, for the most part, I'm not a big puller guy, as you know, because I don't have any pullers. You know, they usually use the later model tractors that have like the footboards, you know, the footboards on it instead of the pegs. The 857 has the peg. So I'm not gonna put footboards on it. So I gotta try to integrate this with the peg in such a way that makes it look nice and smooth. So that's the challenge. Hooking it up to the motor, not really concerned about that. I'll have to make a bracket. This has a real nice return spring on it, but I'm also going to put a return spring on the motor right at the throttle, or right where the actuator is, just before the governor. I'll put a bracket and a spring on that, so that way we know we have good solid return to idle. But initial impressions on the initial box opening, the Midwest Super Cub foot throttle, this is a nice piece. All right, let's go take a look at the tractor and see how we're going to attach this thing. Okay, so we're out here in the shed trying to figure out how I'm going to attach my foot throttle to the 857. Obviously, I don't have footboards on this tractor like the later model tractors did. I have basically the foot peg, if you want to call it. So what my thought is initially, and I'm still in the thinking stage here, it may change just a bit. Obviously the stirrup footrest that's out of here. That's not gonna happen. And what I'm initially thinking is I want this thing to be about in this position. Something like this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to weld a couple tangs onto the foot peg. One, so that way I can use the mounting holes that are in the foot throttle itself. I think maybe one in the back, one in the front, so that way it sits in that position a little bit at an angle, so that way it's comfortable with my foot, or anybody's foot for that matter. I don't know if it's going to go forward or back. I got to figure that out. It all depends on how the length of my leg is. I think that's going to look good. I think the issue here is really what we're going to do with the throttle cable, because if this is in this position, that little hole right there is where the throttle cable bracket goes. I just don't want it to, you know, swoop way out and come way in, you know, that kind of routine. So I gotta think about that. I don't know exactly how I want that. When it comes to the motor, the throttle actually, let's see if we can get this thing to focus. How about like this? Will it focus? Let's back up just a hair. Well, in any event, the back one on the Magnum 10 is actually the throttle, and this cable is going to go bye-byes. But this hole right here is where I think I'm going to connect the throttle cable connector. I'm going to put it right through that hole, tighten it all down, and so the throttle cable will come up, go to this position, and that's how it's going to actuate. The one thing I do want to do though is somewhere in this fashion, I'm thinking I'm actually going to use this bolt and that bolt. I'm going to weld a tang to this plate, and that plate, that tang will have a little groove in it, and it'll actually be another throttle spring that goes down to the throttle lever itself. So that way, when we go to idle, not only will we have the spring of the foot pedal, I'll also have a companion spring on the throttle itself. So that way we make sure it absolutely goes into idle. All right, so I'm going to go through my junk bin of scrap metal to see if I have anything that might work. If not, I'm going to have to go to Tractor Supply or the hardware store or something to that effect. I also got to find a spring for the motor. I don't think I have one hanging around. I'll have to take a look. Alright guys, be right back. Alright, so with a little bit of hillbilly protection, I went ahead and cut a couple pieces of band iron. I tack welded them into place. I put the foot pedal in place, and it's where I like it. So I'm going to burn these in and take all the protection off and put the foot pedal in place, so just so we can see what it looks like roughly. Okay, phase 2 of this little project, and that is making a bracket that I would like to bolt to this cover panel right here, because my actual throttle, oops, here's my finger, throttle lever is right here. So I want to run a spring from here to obviously up here somewhere. So I went to the hardware store and I got 2 of these springs. Let's back that up. Let's see if we can get some. There we go. Which has these nice hooks on the end. It's 035 wire. It does have a nice tension pull. I got 2 of them. I think I'm going to run both of them. And basically what's going to happen, if my camera would focus, let's go over here. It's going to hook, come on, there it is. It's going to hook up into this hole where the original, slide lever throttle is, and then my second spring is going to go into the next hole. It'll come up and hook up to the bracket right about here, so it has a little bit of tension. The 2 springs are going to create a nice solid pull, so I'm real happy about that. They have it. And then my cable, the actual throttle cable, I'm going to put my cable clamp right through that hole right there, and then obviously I'll use the stock or original Kohler cable clamp, which is right there. So I'm going to just get a piece of aluminum, bend it up so it somewhat fits in here, and just to make sure, mock it up, and then I'll pull the panel apart and start drilling a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, I whipped up a very quick little aluminum bracket here. It's all chewed up, but I'm going to clean that all up. I got some witness marks on the little ignition cover plate, and I lined up the holes. I think I'm going to use a 1024 bolt to hold this into place, basically right in this area. Line up the lines actually. That puts this bracket in a real nice area, and the springs will have just a little tension. One thing I'll do when I drill the holes, here's a little tidbit, not that this has never been done before, but the holes that I drill for the springs, because they're going to hang in this position, I'll drill them at a small angle in like going this direction. And the reason why is so that way when I bend this up to hook it in, I don't have to try to get it like at 90 degrees to go through the hole. I can just kind of do it at a slight angle, and then it'll just hook right in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the holes for the mounting bolts. I'm going to round the edges. Obviously I'll drill I got to take it out to the tractor, see where I want these, because I'm going to run both springs, because I got 2 of these, where I want them here, and then I'll drill the angled holes. And then I'll just gently round the corners, take all the beat marks out of it, and go get some stainless bolts, bolt it into place, and put the spring on. And then I can test it with the push-pull throttle cable that's already on the tractor. Make sure these springs aren't going to bind up. Make sure everything moves up and down real nice. Then at that point, I'll pull the push-pull throttle out, and I will get the cable clamp, and we'll mount the foot throttle cable. So there you go. The bracket has been sanded and filed to look fairly pretty. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. The springs are installed. They came out fairly straight actually. Let's go underneath here and take a little better look. As you can see, the springs came out fairly straight. That was my goal. To be completely honest, I was hoping for a little bit more spring pressure out of the 2 springs, but then again I was testing it with the push-pull throttle on the dash. Obviously I'm not hooked up to, the cable's not hooked up to the foot throttle yet. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take the push-pull throttle cable off the tractor, And I got a little black plug that I picked up at the hardware store, and my hope is it'll fit into that hole just to cover it up. And then I will actually put the cable in place and start to adjust it, and hopefully everything works out. Alright, so let's see here. Alright, let's get that cable out and get the plug in the dash. Alright, so after a little bit of work, everything is hooked up and ready to go. I haven't test fired it yet, but just so you can see what I did, as you can tell, here is the cable clamp. It's all put in. Double spring system is in. It's at idle right now. Actually, if we come over here, you can see the, where the heck is it? There it is, I'm sorry. Here's the cable clamp. Holds the sheets together. Here's the throttle cable. That is the choke cable right there. We have the foot pedal. The reason for this stop is the actual foot pedal stop. Okay, so that way I can't over travel, as well as I have the original Kohler Magnum stop. And when you hit this pedal, you know, everything works as it should. You know, we look over here, you see those springs are pulling that back nice. So I'm going to check the oil and do a couple other little tidbitties, and I'm going to take it out for a ride and see how it all works. Alright, be right back. So there you go, guys. The install of the Super Cub, or Midwest Super Cub foot throttle. I give them 2 thumbs way up. The product is awesome. The only thing I did notice with it is the tractor has a little bit of a dead spot right off of idle. Now, I didn't notice it until today because I was using the push-pull throttle on the dash, and I don't typically stab it, or I didn't typically stab it with that throttle. But with the foot throttle, there's quicker actuation to the carburetor off of idle, so I'm going to have to do some carb work or some carb adjustment in order to rectify that. But once it warmed up, it got good and hot, it kind of went away, but there's still a little bit of a dead spot. So I just got to crack it off of idle, and then you can stab it and it takes off. Everything seemed to go really good. I mean, I really can't complain for an initial install and, you know, an initial adjustment and setup. So here's the dash panel. There's the plug that I put in the push-pull area. So that's good, and I think that looks nice, so, or acceptable, let's put it that way. And the pan's underneath it because I'm giving it an oil change. This is going to be the third oil change on the engine since I rebuilt it. There's literally only like maybe 2 hours worth of run time on the engine, so it does huff a little bit of smoke here and there once in a great while, but things are still seating in the motor. So that's about it, man. There's no complaints. That was a great product. It's a great addition to the tractor. Actually, hang on. No, I'm not going to put the hood on because I'll be dumb and forget that I dumped the oil out of it. Final video's coming up on this guy. Hopefully you enjoyed this Midwest Super Cub. Thank you. Bye, guys.